How's everybody feeling? Y'all still with me? We good? Nah. Fuck all that. Y'all gonna realize I need all the energy from y'all. We don't got no energy. We going back inside. Y'all still with me or what? I love it. We still here with the incredible Miss Lago. We got another special guest, my boy Chris Dennis, Roddy Ricch's engineer, one of the most talented engineers I know. There's nothing that I ever get from this dude that is not nothing less than incredible. Please make a nice round of applause for my boy Chris Dennis that's joining us today.
Not only is he just is joining us, like this man literally just landed.
I feel bad, like he came just from Miami, working with Roddy. I mean, what's up, man? I heard you had some issues on the plane.
Traveling with the studio, it can get tricky sometimes with TSA.
Man. Yeah,
we travel with the full studio.
Yeah, shout out to Roddy. He flew in for this conversation, so I want to thank him for coming.
Absolutely.
Man, let's jump right into it.
Yes. So, talk to us, man.
Yeah. So,
go ahead, man.
I know
go ahead. We excited. No. I love it. Like, go ahead.
All right, so Chris, Dennis, let's just get a quick backstory of like your history, right? Before working with Roddy, like where did you come from? Like, what's your story?
So I was prior military. I used to be in the Air Force. I got out of the military. I used to work in like cybersecurity, and I was always into music, but I wasn't much of a musician. So I wanted to be in it. I went to Crast. Shout out to the Crast family over here.
Hey.
Did that. Moved to LA. Interned for like 4 or 5 months. Got into the runner position, assistant position. Came up through Record Plant Studios out in Hollywood. And then just went from there. I went freelance after a while and met Roddy like 3 or 4 weeks after I left the studio to go freelance, and we just locked in every day after that.
That's amazing. Yeah. Like just to hear very similar paths, right? Like almost like ground zero. Like you liked music, you wanted to do music, but you like pursued it. So you were like a ground zero student, just trying to go out there and pursue it. Did you have any like musical background as far as like do you play instruments, or it was just all about being intrigued about being in the business?
It was more about being intrigued.
Yeah.
I went through the phase where I thought I was gonna be like an EDM DJ producer, and that was my real like big intro into like mixing and creating music and like FL Studio at the time and things like that.
Right.
And then learning about recording and like, my music doesn't sound good. How do I make it sound good? Mixing. And that path just led me that way.
That process of like really going and doing that like that grunt work, right? Going from an intern or just aspiring to want to be it and going to an intern, going to a runner, and then making yourself up as sitting with one of the biggest artists that, you have a diamond plaque now, you know what I'm saying? You're
right.
That's
like,
crazy.
that is like that's admirable. Shout out to you, my boy. Like, let's clap it up for one more time.
Thank you.
So let's talk a bit like just like your work with Roddy. Obviously, you've been with him for some years now. Before Antisocial album, right?
Correct. I met him right when he started Antisocial, basically. I think he had done like War Baby right before he met me, and it was without the choir at the time and stuff. But there's like 2 records he had done without me, Big Stepper. But after that, everything else we had just locked in.
What do you think it was that really had you guys locking in together for you to be his official engineer? What would you say was the thing that you said, this is who I want to work with as an artist?
Honestly, first session, I just felt it in my gut. Like, I was like, I didn't even know who he was when I first worked with him. I just got a call for a session from his management at the time. And they was like, yo, you want to pull up on Roddy Ricch? I was like, sure, why not? Pulled up, and I was like, yo, he's really, really talented. And his work ethic was unmatched. And I saw it was the right vibe for me, and I just felt like it was right. And so that's why I stuck with it.
I want to actually reverse that question. What do you think it was with him that wanted to work with you? Because that's a very important dynamic. Mm-hmm. The engineer-artist, like when an artist locks in or a producer locks in to one engineer, that's hard. That's a relationship. Yeah, absolutely.
I always say that relationship is like going on a road trip with your friend, right? It's like you're driving the car, but the artist knows where he wants to go. So it's on you to really get him there safely.
Yeah, exactly. Co-pilot.
Yeah.
And we just actually had this discussion a couple days ago.
Oh, cool.
Where
nice and fresh.
Yeah, because Kifa, Roddy's executive producer and our legend, we were kind of talking about that, and he was saying like from the jump, the reason they stuck with me was obviously because my work ethic, but even off of day 1 too, they saw how organized I was. So we
Ding.
we would do a
Bar.
session, and I would have my naming scheme to keep track of sessions, all the bounces from every night. You know, we got in 3 or 4 days later. He's like, hey, pull up this from the other day. And it's like I immediately was able to pull it up. And that was an issue he was having a lot of times with other engineers, whereas like they're struggling to find the right session or what he's talking about. And so it's just always just trying to be in tune with the artist, and we were just in tune right out the gate. So that's why it felt so right.
Yeah, I think, like, listen, that organization is probably one of the biggest. Don't get it twisted. You know, like the technical side of it, absolutely important, but that organizational skill is like beyond, because artists, we all know, sometimes they'll have like 26 versions of one song, and then
Yes.
they'll sit there and say, can you bring it back to that one where I kind of sounded like this? And it's all about really how you like labeled and kind of like really, you know,
100%.
like, because they don't want you opening up like 5, 6, 10 different sessions, because that actually worries them.
Right.
It starts to kind of mess with their head. Like, are you sure this is it? Nah, this ain't it. Man, you lost it. It becomes a disarray. So like being that organized, absolutely, I can already know that like for an artist, any artist, Roddy Ricch, anybody, like for them, that is key. That is golden.
That's a
That
fact.
you were able to be that.
It's that unwritten rule, right? I mean,
Right.
as an audio engineer, we're basically managing the sonic life of an artist, right? Knowing where all the files are, knowing, where all the hard drives are at, knowing all those things. And that's what separates just the average person coming in pressing 3 compared to somebody who's really building with an artist. And I would really say, just me working with Roddy and knowing Chris throughout that process, there's minimal shit that I have to fucking do, because this guy has already got everything labeled, color coordinated, organized. Everything is, the sessions, all the air is cut out. It already sounds great, right? And that's what separates mediocre from fucking great, right? Is going that extra mile, doing the things that the other person would say, you know what, I'm checking out for the day, right? I can imagine how much hours after the sessions you spend on the work just to make sure,
Hours.
you know what I'm saying? And I see it, bro. I'm on your Instagram. I'm not envious, my boy. I see when I'm just now waking up to my daughter and I'm seeing, you know what I'm saying?
We've been in the studio all night just recording 10, 12 songs.
Right. But what can you say, like, just that dedication to your craft? Like, how would you say that, like, got you where you are today, right? Just you sacrificing, like we talked about earlier, sacrifice, that word's gonna come up a lot. But sacrificing just time, right, to build with an artist. Like, can you speak on that a little bit?
Of course. So for me, I tell Roddy this often, and I have the opportunity right now to be a part of something bigger than myself that not a lot of people get that opportunity. And when that happens, it's like the universe puts you in that place for a reason, so you got to run with that. And it's like if you're half-assing anything or doing anything, all you're doing is cheating yourself and everybody around you. It's like if you're in that position, go 110% every day. And when you win 110%, now you got to top that 110% the next day. And so every day you got to be topping yourself, or you can't get comfortable. And
Don't get comfortable, that word there. It's like I always say as a mixer, right? You're only as good as your last mix, right? You're only, as an engineer tracking, you're only good as your last session, right? You have to always just come with that A game, that 110% every time, because like I said, look around, look next to you, look behind you. There's somebody here looking to take your job right now. I know all of you motherfuckers in here looking to be mixed by. Fuck y'all. I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna keep pushing. But that's the mentality that you gotta have, right? You have to be able to like put yourself on a pedestal, like, nigga, it's dog eat dog. Like, I'm gonna come out here, I'm gonna work harder than everybody. I'm gonna be the first one into my sessions and the last one to leave every single time. And whether you think somebody's paying attention to that or not, they are, right?
somebody sees it.
Somebody's
every time.
seen it,
Yeah.
right?
So when you first started working with him, did you build a vocal chain with him, or was there one already in place and you just kind of piggybacked off it, or did you build one? Like talk about that a little bit.
You know, I had a certain vocal chain, of course, like 1073 pre, no matter what, every time.
What mic?
And we've always gone the C800.
Beautiful.
And
Classic chain.
for me, it's like I've always loved the CL1B, but I don't use it.
Wow.
At least for him.
I love the CL1B.
I love it, but for me, I'm a bigger fan of like FET compression, so I like the 76.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I mean, everybody knows my weapon of choice, that purple audio.
That purple audio, I see it.
That's my weapon of choice every time. It sounds phenomenal. And then day one, I just started building a template for him, and 3.5 years later, I still change my template every session. I'm updating something, tweaking something. Even if it's changing something, 0.1 dB, it's like, it's just always staying on top. And
It's
making
always
sure you're on
remaining a
great game.
student of the game.
Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely, and not like again being complacent, right? Like you have to be able to evolve. Like you cannot, you can kind of use somewhat of the same technique, but you got to be able to kind of like look beyond that. Like you know what I mean? Like kind of challenge yourself. Don't be so like, okay, it works. What don't broke don't what's that saying? Like what ain't broke don't fix it, whatever.
Yeah.
No, man, break it so you can fix it.
But that's like that going above and beyond, right? And I can
Right.
attest to that. I can speak. I'm partial to that because like back in the day, like didn't have the resources, the money, the outlets to go to the music schools to understand like what the fuck is there to learn, right? It was me sitting in a chair going through my list of cracked plugins, right? Throwing all, you know what I'm talking about, throwing all of that onto a vocal track and understanding what all the tools I have access and ability, you know what I'm saying, available to.
Even to this day, speaking on that, it's like if I'm have free time, like we're in Miami for the past 3 weeks in a house recording. It's like I have a lot of downtime in between recording and stuff. I'm going in there and I'm opening up plugins. I'm going through every preset
Right.
still to this day, trying shit.
It's creating that mental Rolodex of
Exactly.
every single sound that you have. When I first met Dre, this was 2005, 2006, right? When Kendrick just got with Dre. And, I'm wet behind the ears I'm seeing all these buttons and all type of shit. I'm like, damn, like, what can I steal? Nah, I'm fucking with you. But I'm in the studio and I wanted to ask Dre, like, yo, like how can I get my shit sounding like yours? Like, what do I need? Like, how much money, like, who do I gotta rob to get the bread, to get this equipment? Like, talk to me. And he was like, it's not what you're working on, it's who's pressing the buttons, right? Knowing the tools that you have access to, right? Don't think that you need the best of the best of the best to sonically compete with the people that are out here. It's taking the time to learn every part of the tools that you have access to and using it to the best of your ability. You know what I'm saying? I know people that are making hit records on their fucking iPhone, right? Steve Lacy produced a Kendrick record off of his iPhone, right? People are in jail making records like that. With technology, like it's limitless to what you could do. Don't be discouraged because you don't have the $100,000 board or the $20,000 mic or whatever it is. Use what you have and make work for you and know and study what the fuck you do have, right? Don't take nothing that you have for granted. I use drum plugins on vocals, right? I use vocal plugins on percussions, right? It's whatever feels good. There is no blueprint to a right record. It's what sounds good, right?
No, absolutely. I can
I get
so
to preaching,
echo that.
so I need one of those
No,
little-
you don't gotta listen. Preach. That's what we're here for. Let's preach. You know what I mean? Because I love that. Like I love being able to know that like just do what you feel. You know what I mean? If it works, it works. Don't like think twice about it because but this is used for a kick drum. But if it sounds great on a background vocal, run with it. Like who's to tell you? Who's gonna even look on your session and be like, oh, no.
Right.
Shouldn't have used that plug in there because if somebody does do that, you can tell them to go
Yeah, them fuck
somewhere
themselves.
with that. You know what I mean? But like at the end of the day, I said this in the last session. I'm probably gonna keep repeating myself like a broken record. Be creative. As engineers, we are creative, just like the producer, just like the songwriters, just like the artists. We are in that room just like them, and put your creative hat on. Like you know what I mean? Do what it takes for you to be a part of the record and really make it be what it becomes. You know what I mean? And you're working with such a phenomenal artist. And I know you were just in Miami working with Khaled, which is a monster of a creator in his own right. That man,
legendary.
and that's another reason why you have to stay on your Rolodex. Because guys like him, he will push you to the limit.
100%.
He will sit there and try to tell you what he wants, and he's not making not one bit of sense. And you just got to be like, all right, like, and you got to
Can't get frustrated.
You can't.
I got you. I'll do what I got.
You can't ever do is be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Because even if you don't know what you're talking about,
Figure it out.
or what they're talking about, just act like you know and
Say
just
with
start,
confidence.
Just start mixing a sauce of plugins. I mean, like, because at some point along that way, you might do something that wasn't
Exactly.
even what they wanted, but they'd be like, oh,
That's
hold
tight.
up, I love that. And now you like, whew, all right,
Experiment.
I'm off
9
the
times
hook.
out of 10, we're experimenting.
Yeah, we're
You know?
experimenting.
Like you got to realize, like going back to like Section 80, right? How many of you guys familiar with the Kendrick Section 80 project, right?
Yeah.
Fucking, if you go back and listen to it now, the reason why there's a lot of distortion effects on the plugin is because we had a broken mic that was recording on. So I had to mask the broken mic distortion with actual distortion.
Dope.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like experiment, right? Create sounds, create your own sonic thumbprint, right? And that's from, taking the time to love what the fuck you do. As a recording engineer, obviously, everyone has their own techniques, But can you give like the people here that are tracking engineers like your like top 5 do's and don'ts when tracking, like from all aspects, personal to business to creative? Like, what is Chris Dennis's top 5 do's and don'ts?
My top 5, I think one of my big things right now, and this is only something I've realized recently, is when we're recording, we can go 12 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours. Like, we are in mixing, we go into recording all night, Ali'd come in to finish mixing, and I'm sleeping on the couch after the night before. But the thing is, when you're recording, it's just be present. Like,
it's a bar.
Especially when you're like 12 hours in, it's easy for your mind to start floating to be like, oh, I got this to take care of, or this, or I got this going on. But you got to look at this like meditation. It's like you got to be present. Your mind starts straying away, get right back into the record, because you got to be there in the moment of them recording this music and creating the sound. And that's one of my biggest things for this is always be present. And because the moment you're not,
right. And real quick to kind of stray away real quick, and we'll get back to those top 5 do's and don'ts. But like in our, I don't know, we used to do workshops, and now I'm doing onboarding for the Engineers platform. But I talk about this, right? Not a lot of people talk about like the mental health aspect to what the fuck we do, right? That being present mentality, you have to understand, like if you're not mentally capable of dealing with something, is sitting there for 10 hours to mix a snare because you're dealing with personal shit. We're human, we all deal with it. It's okay to take a step back, to take 2 forward. Because if you're not present in those times that he's speaking about, the artist is gonna see that. And then you're easily replaceable. Deal with what you have to deal with. Take care of what you gotta take care of. Get yourself together, talk to people, right? Get some fucking sunlight, right? We need some vitamin D in our life. We're in a box all day long. Take time for yourself and get your mental right. Because if not, whether you know it or not, your work will start declining because you're not mentally present, like he just mentioned. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing for me is always being present. And then you're saying top 5 recording things.
Always a hard
The pressure.
The pressure.
I mean,
Right.
listen, like you started off as a ground zero student. Like, let's include some of that. Like, for those that are just kind of starting out in the business and want to kind of get their foot in the door,
Right.
can we kind of say like some top, like within that top 5 do's and don'ts on what maybe you should do or what you shouldn't do?
Like think studio etiquette.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so studio etiquette, it's just like,
Because you're essentially, engineers is essentially like a bartender, right? When the artist comes into the session, if they're in a bad mood, you got to cheer them up.
Oh,
if they need some water or
There's
some
so much
tea.
psychology involved.
You know what I'm
man.
saying? Like,
Yes.
talk about that a little
actually,
bit.
yeah, big
and I
thing.
know Roddy.
Besides being present, the big thing for me is the vibe and keeping the vibe consistent. You're saying organization, if you got to open up 5 sessions to find something, vibe's gone. They lost that magic already.
Yes.
They want to pull it up and start recording right away. They want to do something. And no matter what is happening, keeping that vibe consistent and good is most important. You'll get the best music out of it. You'll get the best relationships out of it.
Because you're really stuck in the studio with them for days, months, weeks, right?
Yeah.
That and then as being in the studio, you're going to be around very influential people, a lot of big people in this stuff. And as the engineer, you got to learn when you're in the building and when you're at the table. And sometimes you're in the building, but you're not at the table. So, I mean, it's like sometimes you got conversations going on around you. You don't have to be in that conversation. You can be doing your thing. You just got to learn when to involve yourself, when to not, and play your role. And that's a big thing for me as well.
It's a bar.
Yeah. So I think you only gave us like 3, but we'll get you off the hook. We'll get you off the hook for now.
And then, okay, another one actually. From day one, invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Back when I was an intern, I would buy a Waves plugin when it went on sale,
Right.
or Run or whatever. It's just buying my plugins as much as I could, and that's what helped me stick with Roddy because we were getting booked at studios with broken computers, and they would call me because they knew I had my own laptop with
Right.
every plugin I needed that I purchased legally, whatever. It's a big thing. We all start out with the cracks, but
Oh,
you got to
for
invest
sure.
in the game too,
Facts.
And
Facts.
you wouldn't be here without these plugin companies, a lot of us. So you gotta make sure to invest back into them. And so yeah, it's just
That's
invest
big,
in
man.
yourself, invest in your craft, and so that way you don't have to try to scramble to get ready when the moment comes. You can be ready when the moment comes.
It's a fact.
Stay
That's a
ready, so you
fact.
ain't gotta get ready.
Yeah, you've been around.
Keep a
Roddy.
line right there.
I'll fuck
Listen,
with
man,
it.
that
I'll fuck
adds to
with
your
it.
value. You guys got to remember, you know what I mean? It's like at the end of the day, like if you have stuff if you got tools, you know what I mean, in your toolbox that a lot of studios or other engineers don't have, that makes your value,
You're a high
you know what I
commodity.
mean, come up a lot more. So
Exactly.
it's really important. Like I know, you know, a lot of us want to spend money on other amazing and
Right.
you know libations and fun stuff, but at the end of the day, you got
gotta
to
invest
be
in
able
yourself.
to, you know what I mean, like build up your rapport with all the things that you're
Right.
using on a day-to-day basis in the music.
Right, and we talk about it as well. It's like it's becoming irreplaceable, right? A lot of when it comes to like working with a new artist or working with an artist in general, right? A lot of engineers ask me like, how did you build with this or how do you build with this person? It's really becoming irreplaceable, right? And that's being so where when an artist goes into a session and they're not getting that same energy that they once had with you, then they're going to be calling your phone because you set a specific tone for those sessions that they need to create, right? And that's essentially like how I built my name, man. Like, and I'm going to keep referencing back myself is because I like my whole process is unorthodox, right? I've went that route that I'm sure a lot of us are taking, and you might think you're going the wrong way, but that's not it, right? Just stay on that path. But it always boils back to becoming irreplaceable, right? Being for the artist, being there for them at any given time, becoming that bartender or that shoulder that they need when they're in tough places because they still have to execute on top records, and being organized, right? Being that person that they know that they can leave the studio when they're done recording and know that all their files are safe, nothing's gonna be leaked, it's not gonna be no fuck shit going on, nothing's gonna be sold on the black market, nothing crazy, because it's, you know, we deal with these type of things in this industry. It's crazy.
Absolutely. No, it's interesting, man. Like, just to give like a quick background and echoing off what he's saying is, you know, when I was coming up, I came up under Timberland and, you know, like engineering for him. And I wanted to be like, you know, I wanted to be Timberland's engineer. But then this young protege by the name of Danger came in the room one day. And I knew like, you know, engineering for Timberland was like more of a long shot because he had his engineers that he worked with. And, you know, that was my ultimate goal, you know what I mean? And I was doing it. But at the end of the day, like, I ended up seeing like, you know what, there's an opportunity here because I'm gonna come in earlier and work with this young producer and like kind of help build out his sound. And that's what we would do. Like Timberland would call like a 8 p.m. start time, which really meant like midnight, 1 a.m. So like Danger and I would come in like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and we would have that time from 2 p.m. to midnight. That'd be us. He'd be churning out beats, I'd be mixing them. You know what I mean? Like just kind of like just building out his sonics. And at the end of the day, like 18 years later, I mean, we're still working together. We've opened up studios, record label. You know what I mean? It goes on and on and on.
Relationships.
But yeah, it's a relationship. You know what I mean? That you got to build on. Like, you can't just think about things in a one-dimensional, you know, outlook. Because at the end of the day, like each step that you take can really open up one door after another.
All about maximizing those opportunities, basically.
Yes.
You have no choice, right?
Maximize everything you can.
Right. Do we have any questions for Chris while he's up here? Anybody in the crowd?
What about the Purple Audio compressor do you like the most? Like, what about it sonically does it add to your sound?
I don't know. Hold on. Let me just. He's asking like, what about the Purple Audio does he like the most? And
For me, the Purple, I started out using a lot of vintage 76s, and I always loved the sound of the vintage 76. The weight it adds to things, like it adds good weight to vocals, you know. And that's something I never found on the CL1B. So whenever I was looking for my own compressor, I found that the new revisions from Universal Audio, they're amazing compressors, but they weren't hitting the exact feeling I was looking for. And so I did a lot of research, tried out different ones, and I found that the Purple, it sounded exactly like a vintage 76. And for a great price, too. That's not even affiliation sponsorships, I just believe in it that much. And so for me, yeah, it had the sound I was looking for. And I don't have to worry about dealing with a vintage piece of gear either. It's fresh, off the line. I don't have to worry about that stuff. It's got warranty, you know? So that one's a fat compressor, so there are no tubes, yep. And for me personally, I know it's different from other people, but if I'm using a tube microphone, I'm not trying to really go into tube compressors or anything like that. I'm gonna try to balance it out with, you know, something Transformers or based or something.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't do that?
It's just, for me personally, I'm just not like, obviously it's gonna sound great, but I'm just not the biggest fan. Like, U87, with CL1B all day.
Yeah.
But for like a tube microphone, 251, I mean, obviously that's amazing at CL1B, but I just find...
What do you think is the difference? Like, we talk about the tube mics to, like, you know, the U87. With working with Roddy's obviously has a higher pitched, thinner vocal.
Exactly.
You know, like, what will be those differences in those two type of, like, mics?
The CL1B complements his high end really well. but I can make that work with plugins in the way that I'm looking for. And I like the purple because it adds the weight to his vocals that it's hard for me to do with the plugins without making it too bottom end.
Yeah, that analog warmth.
It's just that perfect balance for me with him.
It's tough to recreate that sometime in the box. Yeah.
Do you switch up your mic chain if you're recording another artist, or is it pretty much down the line?
Oh yeah, definitely. It'll depend. You know, like Roddy's the first artist I really stuck with a 76 style compressor. Because before him, I was using CL1B all the time.
Yeah.
But
You better
I
have
just
me go
found I
cop one
always
of them
loved
off.
that
I'm about to go
76.
grab one now.
I know, it's interesting. Like a lot of times, you know, I was recording for the first 10, 12 years of my career nonstop, and I would always choose the mic and even the mic chain based off the tone of an artist.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Same.
So if I had like a deeper voiced artist, rapper, I would kind of, you know, I would want things to be a little bit brighter, so I would go. At the time, I would think I was using like a C800 or even a U87 through a Martech MSS10. Always the CL1B stuck though. The CL1B was the one thing that never changed.
You know, one thing that we experimented back in the day, you know, SZA's vocals is like super, like obviously like bright and sharp. The vintage U47.
Oh,
those are amazing.
Great mic.
The warmth that you get from the vintage
Sick.
U47,
Yeah.
chef's kiss. It's incredible. If you have the opportunity to work in a studio that has one of those, take advantage,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I've definitely been considering new things with the shortage of C800 tubes.
It's
And
crazy, right? I can't find one. They're like stocks. Like
You
C800s
can't.
are going up. Like
exactly.
fucking, it's
So
crazy.
if I were to switch, I would probably go U47 or 251.
Word. Any other questions we got from the crowd? Right here in the corner?
I like the point that you made. Like you said, like Ollie, that we're kind of like bartenders. I kind of look at it as like we're barbers. You know, when artists come to the studio, you know, it's therapeutic when you go to a barber shop. But my question for you, Chris, is what do you do? Like, how do you wind down after a long session, like an 8-hour, 12-hour session? Like, what do you do to get your mind back into like just the mental health capacity of it? Like, get back to reality.
That's a really good question, actually. And it's all about just finding your peace. Like, what helps you find that peace? You know, I do a lot of reading in my downtime, or you know, I've got my own projects, like my own business, like endeavors right now. I'm working on the side, and so that's what I do in my free time, and it helps me like just take a step away from recording, and lets me just focus on a whole new creative aspect of something. And that helps me find my balance, and then just trying to get outside, hiking when I'm in LA, or just doing whatever, you know, just getting out and just living life a little bit anytime you can with family, friends, whatever. It's just keeping yourself busy in a healthy way.
And that's a good question, because like in the point of all of our times, right? Music is just a hobby. In the beginning of all of our careers, it was just a hobby that turned into a career. So now it's like, what the fuck do we do for fun, right? But it's important to really find what that is, you know, to take a step back. So when you come back to it, you miss it, right? You come with aggression, because it's like, damn, I haven't mixed a song in a day. I haven't mixed a song in 2 days, right? So it is important to, again, find yourself, because like I mentioned earlier, like you can hit that brick wall very fast, right? You can lose interest. You can lose your passion, right? You don't want to, right? So it's finding ways to stay true to just your core, you know, and then feed it later with the music.
Yeah, if you come out of a 12-hour session and you just go home, sleep, and you kind of lay around all day, eat a meal, and go straight back to the session, it's going to feel like you never left. So it's like, how do you capitalize on those hours between sessions to make it feel like you did leave? Even if it's like just focusing on something else you want to be pursuing on the side. Like, you know, it's just good to have different things to take your mind off of recording, or just to be able to sidetrack for a little bit.
That's a fact.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Any questions? I got my guy right here.
Look, you know, nigga ain't past the 10th grade and shit. You know what I mean? But, you know, as an engineer, do you ever feel responsible for the arrangement of a song from an artist where you know they're not really working with a producer, so it's more so, okay, as an engineer, you're setting the tone of the whole shebang, you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And I feel like that's going to be an artist. It's going to depend on the artist you're working with. With Roddy, he's very involved. You know, he knows Pro Tools. He knows how to do things. I'm pretty sure he recorded himself on Feed the Streets 1, like the whole album, or mixtape. And so he already has a vision of where he wants things, how he wants things. So sometimes he'll step in and handle it. But sometimes if I don't see him step in, but I know it's something he's probably going to want, you know, because I know he likes maybe certain arrangements on certain beats, like you're saying, I'll go ahead and do it myself. And Again, and if he doesn't like it, boom, Command Z, undo it. You know, easy.
And
I think, go real quick, yeah. So like, I've definitely worked with artists where they're, you know, they need that direction, you know. So it's not about asking, do you want me to arrange this for you? It's like you just kind of take the initiative, you know. Like you kind of just kind of see what's happening, and at the end of the day, like, you know, Chris just said, like, if they don't like it, that's the greatest thing about the digital era. It's like, well, you know, save session as and try something different. But absolutely, I think engineers, we are producers. There is an aspect to us producing a record. So, you know, just because think about, you know, like, we're not just sitting there pushing buttons and putting up faders and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, we are another side of a brain to the producer in the room, if there is a producer in the room. A lot of times producers are looking for you to help them kind of, like, you know, navigate that for you. So, like, I think that's a great, you know, that's kind of what makes you, like, kind of stand out. Exactly. If you're able as an engineer in the room to kind of just start taking the initiative, you know, as long as you ain't, like, completely screwing up the record, but you know what I mean? Like, you'll be told, like, you'll kind of you'll get an idea. You'll feel the temperature. Somebody will tell you it's whack. Like, what you doing, man?
But you tried it, though. But you tried it.
But you tried it. So it's like, yeah, exactly. And it's not like we're dealing with 2-inch tape anymore. It's Pro Tools, you know what I mean? So if you're going to try to experiment on something, just save session as. So if you got to go backwards or playlist your, you know, all your audio files, and that way you can always just go back and, you know, and just, you know, start from scratch.
Right. Mm-hmm. Anybody got any questions?
Going back over here.
We got one more in the back.
Yeah.
One more in the back. Hey, how's it going?
Good, you? I'm straight. Oh shit.
We hear
Hey,
you.
is that good? There we go. Hey, so what's the track that you worked on that you're the most proud of? Like, I know that's a really hard question because I know you worked on a lot of great shit, but like,
I feel like the obvious one that people expect is the box. Obviously, you know, went diamond. That's a huge milestone right there. I think one of my favorite stories for a record is Rockstar, though. So I was at home, you know, I was tired. I was in bed. It was like midnight, 12:30 at night. I'm in bed asleep, and I get a call from Roddy, like, hey, bro, we're at the studio with the baby. Can you pull up on me? And I was like, I didn't want to. You know, I'm tired, but deep down, you can't say no to that because it's like, that's an opportunity. And so I was like, all right, I got you. I get to the studio at like 2 a.m., and they had me step in because they just the baby wasn't really liking the engineer he had at the moment. And so they had me step in, just take over, because obviously Roddy trusts me, so the baby trusted me. And that's the night we ended up doing Rockstar at like 3 a.m.
Crazy.
And then
like
got
7, 8,
Grammy
9
nominated
times?
off of that.
Yeah.
But it's like, I could have easily been like, bro, I'm tired. Like, I'll see you tomorrow maybe? No, like, I pulled up at 2 a.m, whatever, cut the record, got Grammy nomination off of that.
Right.
Same thing happened with the Kanye. I got nominated off the Kanye album. Same case. I get called around 1 a.m. like, yo, bro, we got to get to the studio right now. We have to do something. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll be there. Like, it's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm going to be there. And that's a big thing that, for us engineers, is reliability. In the past 3.5 years I've been working with Roddy, there's been one time I was not able to pull up out of the past 3.5 years. And that's big. That's artists know that. They see that.
It's trust.
Yeah.
It's trust.
So,
I know y'all got questions. Y'all get so shy out here, man. What is going on? Oh, wait. We got one more. One more with a pen in the back.
I see.
Hey,
Hey.
what's a piece of gear or plug-in that you use that you feel is slept on that doesn't get a lot of attention?
That's a good one.
Ooh, that's a good
one.
question.
That's a real good one.
I think people are catching on now, but I'm going to say Plugin Alliance as a company for tracking. You know, a lot of plugins come with delay compensation, or they come with delay, like sample delay. So, you know, when you're recording, you have to have that minimal sample delay going on so they're not hearing their vocals delayed. Plugin Alliance is an amazing company, and most of their plugins are such a little delay, you can track with all these plugins on and you're still good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would have to say Plugin Alliance as a whole, I'm a big fan of.
Right.
Yeah.
Shout out to, if Plugins Alliance is here, man, come holler at your boy, man.
Hey,
you know
man.
what I'm saying?
There we go.
I gotta say,
Major plug.
I'm already a
That's a
sponsored artist
major
under
plug.
those family right there.
Hey, well, Chris, man, I want to thank you for coming by, sharing these gems. Man, shout out to you and congrats to your success in your career, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Again, man, let's clap it up one more time for Chris Dennis. Ask him questions. Fuck with your boy.